Hey, Darius Rucker here. I've known these Shady Ladies for a long time, and I love to hear their stories, but these tales and opinions are not for the faint of heart. And this podcast is not suitable for children, but then again, neither is the music business. So light one up and lighten up with the Shady Ladies of Music City.
I'm Evelyn.
And I'm Susan. Some people refer to us as
The Shady Ladies of Music City. Well, today's episode is about inclusivity in country music. And do black voices really matter in country music?
not really.
And can you be out and proud in country music? What do you think, Sue?
Well, when I first came to town, you would never have thought that there was a homosexual anywhere. Everybody was in the fucking closet. And if they were gay, they didn't want to admit it. And so, it was when I first got here, moving here from Key West.
And what year was that?
When I first got here from 1976 is when I first got here, when I was married.
So that was an era of the Willies and the Christoffersons and
Waylon.
Yeah.
And Don Williams and Jerry Reed. And there were a ton of people then. That was when
I just want to set the tone of the times.
That was when Burt Reynolds was doing those movies. Nobody was gay.
None of those guys were.
No, nobody anywhere was gay. And if they thought that you thought they were gay, they were offended. So, I know that there were gay people here in the 70s. There had to have been. But I'll tell you, I never met them. And I never knew about them. And if they had music, the first time a person was gay that came out in the music business that I really knew about in country music was Ty Herndon. And still today, he's the only one that ever did it.
But, truthfully, there were always rumors back then, too. I wasn't in town then. But I know that there were rumors about various macho country stars.
Not in that decade.
That were sharing the sleeping bag.
Not in that decade. I never heard one strange rumor about Waylon or Johnny Cash or Willie or any of them or Billy Swan or any of those guys.
Eddie Rabbit. No, not him.
No, not Eddie Rabbit. Well, first of all, Eddie was from New Jersey. And if he there was no way he was going to be gay. And, he had a huge career. People have forgotten about Eddie Rabbit, just like people forget about everybody. So now I still don't think that there's there's gay people that are in the industry. They know who they are. I don't feel like I need to identify them. But
well, when I came to town, which was, in the 80s, I think, I saw that, I was coming from New York, so I certainly, was used to working with a lot of gay people and had no issues with it. And I saw that a lot of the people in the business were gay, but they were definitely in the closet, not, necessarily to me because, I had various relationships as you did. And, some of them were married and had kids and everything, but I think that today it appears that people are a lot more comfortable. I mean, certainly the business is very...
I don't think so. I think that you think that because we know people that are a lot more comfortable. But I think if somebody's coming up in the business today and they want to work at Warner Brothers, publishing, I don't think if they're gay, that unless, there's a gay brigade over there that's going to welcome them in, I don't think that they're going to be out and proud.
Well, I don't know.
Certainly not lesbians.
Well, lesbians have always had to take a quieter route, but I don't know. I do think that there's, there's so many people that have moved here from other places, New York and California and all over the country, that I think that people are a lot more relaxed about, sexual orientation nowadays.
No, they're not. They're burning books in Florida, and they don't want the people to learn about LGBTQ, and it's a huge issue. I think people
But you can't hold that back. I mean, we know people in this business who have children that, are in that her, he, they, one, so... everybody has to accept it because it is life.
People don't have to accept it. Ron DeSantis doesn't accept it. And the governor of Texas doesn't accept it, They just, and people don't want their kids being taught that in school. which I don't know. I was nobody ever even mentioned the word sex when I was going to school. When I was in like 3rd and 4th grade, it was, run, spot, run, go up the hill. I mean, it was, no discussion about, do you want to take hormones to change your sexuality?
Well, that gets into like a weird territory. I mean, I don't know. I don't have kids, but, I think I hate this, banning of the books and censorship and dictating what teachers should be doing. I mean, I'm just so against it. And I'm just so appalled that that's what's going on.
Because everyone came out too loud and too proud.
No.
Yes, they did.
No.
Yes, they did. And, gay people have a huge vote, and they can sway, political candidates. And,
well, let's hope so, because at least they'll be liberal.
Maybe.
Well, I think that country music, as I see it, is a lot more relaxed about, the sexual orientation of the artist and of the executives. I think, look at, Brandi Carlile is like the most, acclaimed and esteemed person associated with country music, even though she has nothing to do with country music. I don't think she's marketed out of Nashville.
She is.
It certainly wasn't the town that embraced her and gave her her career. They're just like happy to grab onto her now, is how I see it. But
I think that you're right. I think Brandi Carlile is an anomaly, but she falls more into that Americana group.
Yeah.
And, Americana people were never really that afraid of being gay, I don't think. Maybe they were.
Well, Americana has always been like a more artistic oriented, format, if it is a format. I don't know where the hell they play it, but maybe country music is more inclusive. But do black voices matter?
No, because... first of all, country music wasn't started by black people. Country music was started by people that came over from England and Ireland and, landed in the mountains and started off making, the earliest country music recordings were from, what the hell's the name of that place? There's race cars driving there. Bristol.
Bristol, Tennessee. And John Lomax, our friend, his grandfather or something, did all the original recordings there. That was his claim to fame.
So, those people were, simple people. They had their songs, bluegrass was going on.
I think that country music did start, with the immigration of the Irish and the English and their, playing of the fiddle and all that.
Yeah,
and then it got blended with a lot of black music because of the slaves.
But in the South,
it
was all the blues, and that's who was playing in the South, and they had the blues, and they wrote the blues, and they lived it.
And eventually, because they all lived together, the poor black people and the poor white people, the music sort of got blended just because of the overlap. And
I don't even know.
But nonetheless, country music has not embraced a lot of black voices.
It hasn't. A lot of country music people were racist. I mean, the N-word was mentioned in a big story this year about an artist who's really incredibly talented, and it almost destroyed his career, but he managed to survive it because country music has a lot of sympathy for racists.
Well, he also made a great album that people really responded to above and beyond.
No, I know.
That one, situation.
He's really talented.
I mean, from my point of view, when I got into country music, there had been Charlie Pride. And then there were like maybe one or two other black people that never quite made it, that were all, and everybody always talked about, God, if we could only get another Charlie Pride. We know that black voices are great, and if we could only get another Charlie Pride, and people would sign.
But he's the only one that ever made it in country music.
But nobody would accept him really at radio. I mean, they would.
He had hits.
No, I'm not saying Charlie Pride. I'm saying the people after Charlie Pride.
No, but none of them made it to radio.
They couldn't. Even if
they
were
major label deals. There was one guy that was a doctor, Cleve something or other.
Yeah, no, there were a few people that had major label deals, but, radio just, would not play it because those radio stations at that time still chose their playlist. So they had the option. And when Charlie Pride came out, if you remember, nobody knew he was black until he was already played. And now with social media, of course, everybody knows everything. But there's certainly more black voices as I look at, the scenario. When I look at the award shows, which is where I really see most of the people.
Yeah, they make a brief appearance and that's it. And they have,
It's not such a brief appearance. It's at least, 4 or 5 production numbers, I think.
What about Little Nas X?
Well, he was certainly out and proud.
He was out and proud.
And everybody loved him. They embraced the whole concept that they could have, maybe a worldwide hit, not just, a country hit.
And they did have a worldwide hit.
And they did. And it gave him a great career. And now he's doing, fabulous. And actually, I was happy to see Billy Ray have a moment again, too. And I think that, the truth of the matter is it set off, cash registers and made people happy that they could have that impact, because they've always been trying to find, a foothold in the black audience. So,
well, I think it's amazing how many black people have listened to country music, though, and they like country music, and when I was growing up, nobody in my family had ever heard of anybody that was country at all, except maybe Johnny Cash. And maybe Barbara Mandrell, because she had a TV show. But, nobody, particularly in the Jewish community, had a vibe about country music. And it wasn't until I came down, moved down here that I really embraced it and, grew to love it so much.
But, there's still, it's the great, search for the Spanish acts. Now, in our day, they were always looking for a new Johnny Rodriguez.
They recorded them, and Johnny Rodriguez had a lot of hits.
I know, but, they could never.
But name one. I can't name one.
Freddie Fender. But not that he was a hit. But he was, and I handled the Texas Tornadoes, which was, a blast.
But but Johnny Rodriguez and Freddie Fender were not, on the tip of anybody's tongue.
No, but they were during their time of hits and stuff. They were pretty big. But during our time, really, the 80s and the 90s or whatever, there were not a lot of 90s and 1000s. There were not a lot of Spanish acts in it at all. There's a lot of Spanish music, Spanish country, I guess, in Texas, and it's super successful. But if Nashville doesn't produce it and find it and control it, it never really kind of supports it beyond where it already is. I mean, you have to have the machinery, as they say, of the Nashville push for radio, because everything's still dependent upon radio.
Well, I remember when we were at Asylum and we had an act that was touring in Texas, and we hired a promotion staff to work the Texas radio stations. And you can have a hit down in Texas and sell a lot of records and get a lot of people to come to your shows where nobody in New Jersey knows who you are. So that way, Texas is really still a very regional place.
Well, they definitely support music in Texas.
Yeah, they do.
And, I think it's sad that, Nashville's not more inclusive. I guess the whole conversation comes back to the fact that Nashville isn't more inclusive.
Nashville's not inclusive.
In terms of the artistry, it just sort of breaks my heart when I do listen to contemporary country music, with the exception, of Chris Stapleton and a few people. I am not, that excited or interested by what I hear.
Well, I'm not moved. That's the thing.
That's the thing.
Music before used to move me, and I would always listen to everything. And
you were definitely the most avid music listener I know, and that you would listen 24/7.
I listen to everything, and I listen to people's albums and tapes and shit for years.
There are, definitely black, hit makers in country music at this moment in time. But my fear is not that they're excluding, black people or Spanish people or whatever. They're excluding artistic people, be they black, white, brown, yellow, whatever.
Yeah, the music is really mediocre. I don't hear anything. I remember the first time I heard Garth Brooks singing The Dance. I thought, my God, this is an incredible song. And that was from a different time. I mean, to say nothing of like Willie singing Angel Flying Too Close to the Ground. and all of Christopherson's great songs. No,
Yeah, that's the thing. It just, I miss like a really great song that just kind of, makes you want to pull over. And I wondered if it was just because I'm older now and, what really interests me and am I going to have that reaction? And how often do I, even listen to new music? But I will say that when Adele came out, I immediately went and bought the album. And still, there's certain things, Chris Stapleton, that will move me to, purchase.
Yeah, Chris Stapleton is really probably the standout artist of his generation.
And it's a miracle that he slipped through, is the truth of the matter. I'm sure
That's
that was
because
one
he
of the
sang with-
biggest shocks of their lives. And it was because of the Justin Timberlake
was.
thing. If he hadn't had that appearance, that moment, there's no way that he would be in the position he's in, because Nashville has never embraced that kind of music.
It's a tough format because there's, look at who the governor is, Governor Lee. I mean, he might be a great guy,
Tennessee.
but he's a real conservative man.
Well, look at all the governors of country markets, like, Ron DeSantis, like
Governor Abbott in
Texas. It makes it a difficult situation. But, I think that the industry is more open to it. I think it's radio that closes the door on so many opportunities. Look at that, girl, Mickey Guyton. She had like a minute of
That's right.
fame and has been, nominated for all kinds of awards, has been given big national spots on TV, and has gotten a lot of acclaim.
But
and,
where
and
is she
deservedly
now?
so. But, she can't break through country radio. And, it's a miracle that they've broken anybody through to country radio, of color. But,
Well, they haven't.
well, they have a few.
Not on the radio.
Well, I think
I mean,
Darius
I've never-
Rucker
I
has
listen-
a few hits.
I listen to country music radio, and I never heard Mickey Guyton on the radio
No.
once. It's not an inclusive format, and the world is increasingly moving away from inclusivity. And this whole woke moment has come up.
Yeah, and that's kind of true. I hadn't thought of that. I would like to believe that everybody moving here is, making us, more of a mixture of interesting people and voices. But instead, I guess as a society and as a world,
Woke.
we're just kind of turning into our little, posses.
It's a short conversation in country music. And they haven't changed in hundreds of years, and they can put out some unbelievable music, but, they're not going to put out, the Isley Brothers.
It does shock me, about the whole, how racist the country has become in recent times.
It's always been that way. Who do you think the people that founded it were?
No,
The
I know,
good
but
old boys. That's the letter Tammy wrote us. I can't wait to see what the good old boys think of you and Evelyn running a label.
I know,
I mean,
but
it was always.
it just seems so strange to me because, I don't know. It's just hard in this day and age when people, these same racists love the sports stars. They love black music. There's so many things that they relate to and appreciate. And maybe it's just a mentality like you can know one black person and that one black person is good, but everybody else is bad. I don't know, but it just is shocking to me that I think that it is becoming more racist in a strange way.
I think it's never become unracist. I think there was a moment in the 60s when I, as old as I am, was demonstrating for civil rights, and when, we were all demonstrating for stuff back when there were protest songs and Bob Dylan and Joan Baez and, everybody was, writing away. But back then there was a glimmer that maybe, and when Obama got into office as the president,
well, that's the thing that
I
just killed
cried.
people.
I thought that was the beginning of a new era in America.
We all thought it was a new era, but the reality is it just wreaked havoc on the country. I mean, it was like the gauntlet that was thrown down, and it's just been
that's how
turmoil
Trump-
since then. Well, Trump appealed to people. I mean, it's not Trump alone. He's an idiot.
No, but I mean,
Because Trump managed to capture their anger and their,
and make them think that he was just like them. And he was saying that people from other immigrants were rapists and they were going to get your daughters out in the West Coast.
Well,
and
he
all that.
started the birther thing long before he started running for president, but he managed to tap into the racism in America that all of a sudden, they didn't have to stay in the closet. You talk about gays in the closet. The racists, because of the 60s and the protest movements and the changes that came along, they all went underground, but Trump allowed him to come out and say, hey, party hardy.
But I was really sad because that night that Obama announced that he won, I saw pictures of like Oprah and Jesse Jackson and all these people were in Chicago when he came out with his wife and daughters. And, everybody was emotional. And I remember I thought, oh, my God, it's come true. We're going to have, racial equality in this country. But au contraire.
But it is sad. You would think that, I'd hate to think that the country music audience is growing because we're attracting more racism, racists, because they think that this is the one format that they can find, solace in. I hate that thought. In terms of Beyonce, I think that, she's had a #1 record in country music. She's brought a lot of attention to country music. She's created a whole dance thing, which we know how good that was for country music back in the day. And, from a fashion point of view, I saw that a lot of Western stores have sold out of hats and boots and all of that.
Beyonce is an anomaly. She is probably the biggest selling female artist other than Taylor Swift. And I think that only someone like Beyonce could have managed to do this.
You're right about that for sure. And, she's tried to shine a real light on, the Black contributions to country music. And I think that's a great thing because it has been ignored and overlooked. And there are a lot of great Black artists that are involved in country music, but just have never had the spotlight.
I don't know how many there are, truthfully.
Well, look they're coming up with tons of Black performers now. They have they're doing all kinds of special exhibits and shows and gatherings and
well, you can look at Alice Randall, Black country music. She has a whole book about it. But I tend to believe that these kind of things are one-offs.
Well, they are probably, but, I'm still happy that at least, who knows? I've seen a lot of major country stars make horrible comments about the Beyonce project album. And I really think that's sad because, they happen to be very established artists that don't need to.
Well, Beyonce has always
something.
Discussed the fact that her family was country.
Yeah,
and
they were
her
Texas.
Uncle Johnny was a country fan. And, she has had songs on every album that were more country than anyone gave her credit for. But I just think it's very difficult for the country audience to accept the fact that a Black woman could be a country music star.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think they have a hard time, accepting any woman as a star, regardless of color. But, I think it's been a good thing for country, and maybe it's been an interesting, thing for Beyonce. And maybe it'll open up doors for, future, singers. And, you can't say that country has anything to do with Beyonce because she has such an established, huge career that, you can't compare her to, the next unknown Black, singer that comes to town. But I think that it's a good opening. So I'm glad that, she's had success.
Well, I'm glad for her because, if she experienced racism at the CMA shows that she was at a few years ago when she was there with the Chicks. And she said that she experienced racism, that to me was really kind of disgusting because she's always come off as being such a gracious, kind person. She didn't come off as being a bitch in any way. And I'm glad that they allowed her song to become #1. But will she have a career in country music? I don't think so.
I don't think she wants a career in country music. She's Beyonce.
Well, she has another album. She has a whole album of country songs she's getting ready to put out.
Yeah, but she's still Beyonce. She can put out whatever she wants, just like Elvis did, just like Taylor Swift does.
No, just like Taylor Swift does. Elvis never really came out with that many different genres of music.
Gospel, rock, blues,
well, gospel. But that was,
country.
Beyonce's done gospel too. The only one who hasn't done gospel is Taylor Swift.
Well, we can wait for that.
Yeah, we can, and I'll be the first one to buy it.
Along with the Christmas album that every artist gets to. But the only thing that's going to change it really is from the artist community. And, you know, there's encouragement there in terms of, you know, Chris Stapleton for one, Brandon Carlisle for another, people like Jason Isabel, who sort of gets lumped into country, even though he has nothing to do with country. Sturgill, you know, even Willie's son, you know, Lucas, you know, there are things happening out there that hopefully, you know, will change. But, you know, the traditional country music business is not going to change it.
No.
It's going to have to be coming in from, you know, the edges once again.
So I think if you're looking for an inclusive musical genre, I would go to Americana, or I would go to jazz, or I would go to classical.
I guess my final thought on the subject is, you know, that country music is not really more inclusive, and, you know, black voices don't really matter that much, and being out and proud is still in the closet. So
it is. I would say the country music is not that accepting of minorities, and it never has been, and it never will be, and you just have to accept country music for what it is.
And shame it limits itself. You know, I mean, watching The Voice, you know, in the past few nights, there's been, you know, some great black singers that were doing country songs, and, you know, it was really good. So, you know, why the format wants to do that, I don't know. I guess everybody's broken into these little posses. If this is my area, this is my bailiwick, and, you know, I'll die standing my ground.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll be sure to catch you off guard. So light one up and lighten up. Share and tell your friends, then rate, review, and subscribe. Don't be quiet about this. We need you to tell everyone.
And we mean everyone. We are putting our faith in your hands.
We are.
For more information on the podcast, please visit www.shadyladiesofmusiccity.com.
Shady Ladies of Music City is recorded and produced in Nashville, Tennessee, and presented by the Morris Hyam Management.
Our executive producer is Clint Hyam.
Our producer is Kyle Quigley.
Our engineer and editor is Robert Schaefers. Robert has also written and performed our theme music.